start talking about in addiction circles, recovery, inevitably you're going to hear something along the lines of 12 steps. What are these mysterious 12 steps? What is this about? It sounds kind of like a recipe, like if I boom, 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 I'm fine. Let me do this, 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 and this, and I'll be okay. Just tell me what I need to do. I'll work through it in 15 minutes and I'm fine. No, the 12 steps are more of a lifestyle, an in-depth look at becoming whole underneath that substance or that behavior. It's about becoming who you were meant to be and being complete and defined without the need for something on the outside to make up a deficit. It's about filling the voids that a behavior or a substance fills. And the first of the 12 steps is to say, and to come to an honest understanding that you are powerless. There's an incredible weight lifted off a person when they realize they're actually powerless. Because if you're powerless over something, your life's become unmanageable, you no longer can work your way out of it. You're going to need help and power from elsewhere, which is the second step. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Addiction leads to insanity, illogical thinking, fantasy kind of thinking, and a big deceptive way of looking at the world and oneself. Powerlessness and the admission that your life is unmanageable and the belief that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity is the beginning of figuring out, okay, I'm going to need some help on this thing, and I'm going to need some help soon, which leads to the third step, which is to make a decision. And that doesn't come like quickly. You grow into making a bona fide, honest, authentic decision in the midst of your powerlessness in unmanageable life to believe. Make a decision to believe in God, to make a decision that you need His intervention in your life. Number 4, this decision having been made, you begin a searching, look at that word, searching, fearless, meaning it's not going to be pleasant, fearless moral inventory of yourself. It is to look back over those months, years, nights, the walk of shame, the sexual exploits, all of those things, and let's begin not to condemn ourselves, but to inventory. Who really am I and who am I not, and what really have I done with my life in the context of this addiction? I think it's okay to make that inventory and to look at it. In fact, it's important to separate that from oneself. And you do that with the help of a coach or a mentor or a sponsor. The 5th step, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to others, the exact nature of our wrongs. Once we get it out there and look at it, said, man, look who I have become, look what I have done. It's powerful to admit that to someone, obviously, that can trust and with confidence, to get that off of you into another person and see that they're still going to love you, they're still going to care for you, they're still going to encourage you, but that's got to come out. Because that in there is painful, and addicts like to cover pain. Admitted to God, to self, and another, the exact nature of our wrongs. That's the 5th step. The 6th step is we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. That is to say, we made a decision up front, but we hadn't really been in a relationship or an awareness of God long enough to really know the gravity of that decision. But we realized through this process of listing our wrongs and knowing who we hurt and getting them off our chest, that we find ourselves entirely ready. Okay, that was a hindrance to having faith. Those things now gone, we are entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, which He promises He will do, by the way. And we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. This is that divine involvement in our life that we find is necessary, because we have already convinced ourselves at this point of our life that if we could have got rid of those things and relieved ourselves of the pain that they caused, we would have done it already. But by this time we're convinced we can't, we won't. God has promised He will, and we're entirely ready for Him to do that. The 8th step, we made a list of the persons that we had harmed, and we became willing to make amends. This is huge. We became willing to make amends. Now, once you've listed those people, 8th step, and 9th step, begin to make amends to them, restitution, to ask for forgiveness, to acknowledge the pain you've caused and the hurt you've caused. This cathartic process of cleansing that is so important for an addict. That's 8 and 9. 10, we continue to take personal inventory. We're not arriving in any way. We've not grown to some pinnacle of maturity. We're always a work in progress, and we're making mistakes in our recovery. We're living our life, but we're doing it without a substance or a behavior, and we're going to fall. We're going to do stupid things. We're going to make mistakes, but we're going to continue to keep a monitoring of that in a very healthy, non-condemning way. And then we're going to find ourselves that we sought through prayer and meditation. This is something we've begun to develop now as we've become whole. Through prayer and meditation, we're going to improve. And we're going to continue to make contact with God and build a friendship or relationship with Him that's going to prove to be incredibly fruitful, not now, but eternally. And then the 12th step, we've got something now that is attractive and worth giving away. We have a message in us. We have a process. We have a tested process, not only of just abstaining from something, but growing as a woman, growing as a man. We now have something to give someone else who has the very same issue. We can speak out of our own experience, our own strength, and our own hope. These are the 12 steps. You don't rush them. You go through them with someone else, but it starts with powerless. Those that humble themselves will be exalted. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, says Jesus. Therefore, it starts with humility and powerlessness. The road to recovery is usually paved by those 12 steps, and by the way, those 12 steps are biblically based principles for just living a successful, well-arranged life. There you have it, the 12 steps.